Hello, everyone, and welcome to madison.com and a very special WIAA Level 1 prep rally. Rob Hernandez alongside Dennis Semrau and Jason Galloway. We're here at Leisure Stadium behind Madison La Follette High School, where Friday night the Lancers will play host to Verona in a Big 8 conference rematch in Level 1 of the postseason. And guys, gets us right into this playoff talk. I think one of the big controversies in these is so far in the release of the brackets overnight Friday into Saturday was the fact that not that all 6 Big 8 teams that qualified are in the same grouping. However, the fact that Kimberly and Fond du Lac coming down to fill out the bracket, 2 real powerhouse teams out of the Valley Football Association, that seems to have everybody talking. And Dennis, you've been around for a while to know that that isn't the way the WI usually groups the Big 8 teams.
No, they used to take basically and try to separate the conference champs, separate the unbeaten teams, have their little quadrants. And we'd have Big 8 teams in 2, especially the Janesville schools. Maybe a Memorial would be in a separate 8-team grouping. Not this year. They put them all together. Definitely geographical. And I don't think they did the Big 8 any favors, sending Kimberly and Fond du Lac, 2 teams that have been ranked in Division I in our writers' poll all year long in the top 10, putting them in that bracket.
Well, and Jason, I don't have a problem with the Big 8 teams being grouped together since they went to the coaches seeding the playoffs. It's a lot like basketball where most of those schools are in the same grouping anyway. I have a problem with the fact that they went away over the last decade. It's always been the Classic 8 and the Big 8 together. But this year they sent the Classic 8, including 2-time defending state champion Heartland Arrowhead, over to the left side of the bracket as you look at it on the page, and in the opposite bracket from the Big 8 schools, and really gave Arrowhead what looks to be a smooth sail to Camp Randall.
Yeah, they did. I would love to be in the grouping meeting rooms to see exactly what the discussion was there. I'm sure this process is always a very difficult one for the WIAA, but like you said, it's always been the other way. You have to wonder why it happened this year, why it's different this year, and it's a really bad break for the Big 8 that they had to go up against Kimberly, the number 1 ranked team in the state. And it's going to be tough for any Big 8 team to come out of that group.
Can a slap in the face, you've covered the Big 8 all year, Jason, can a slap in the face for the Big 8 be enough to get them over that playoff hump? I know Sun Prairie got to the state finals a couple years ago, but it's been kind of a dearth of playoff or state finals opportunities for the Big 8. Is this kind of a message that maybe it's time for them to really improve their postseason standing in the eyes of the WIA?
It could be. I think logistically though, I don't know if a Big 8 team can really compete with Kimberly, even if they have any extra motivation from this kind of grouping thing. But you look at a team like Middleton, who their defense is going to keep them in any game, I think, no matter who they play. So that's the one team I look at and think, maybe they could hang, and if they get to the quarterfinals and they're at Kimberly, maybe they can hang with them and give themselves a chance.
Well, we'll see how that goes. Kimberly, of course, the defending Division II state champion and the smallest school in the 32 teams of Division I. So on paper, it looks like it's a bad blow for the Big 8, but at the same time, as they say, Dennis, you got to play them sometime. Division II, though, it's a good thing. The local teams in Division II, we've got all the Badger Conference teams that qualified in the same grouping. There's more this year than there were a year ago. They're grouped with Slinger, Hamilton, and Watertown, and that's more of a conventional bracket grouping.
It is. I used to have Wanakee and Slinger together, and you look at the bracket, a lot of different teams can come out of it. I think the team to watch is number 4, Slinger. They play in a tough conference. So they played Wisconsin Lutheran tough, and I don't know, Wanakee, is this the Wanakee team that we knew and loved and other teams hated over the last decade? I think they're a step closer to that. I think their wins at the end of the season, Reedsburg, and then to basically slap down a good Baraboo team that's poised, I think, for the playoffs next year. You got to look at DeForest, though. That's the team that's been playing really well. Like Verona in Division I, that's the hot team, I think, coming in. Especially, like Jason mentioned, defense. If you can play defense at this time of year, I don't care about the spread offenses when the weather gets bad. You better play defense and run the football. And there's some teams in that bracket that can do that.
And Jason, I've got my spoiler alerts now. The spoiler alert in Division I was Kimberly and Fond du Lac, for that matter. Not a bad team to be in that grouping either. But in Division II, Greendale in the state semifinals. Whomever gets through that bracket, if it is a Badger Conference team, DeForest, Wanakee, or as Dennis says, Slinger. Greendale, which was a Division III finalist last year, lost to Monona Grove, is standing right there. So anything you're seeing in Division II that stands out?
I like Waunakie's chances. I think they finished the year strong, and I think that they're a team that they're a team that kind of built to make a deep run. I think, and at being the 2 seed, I think they kind of again Milton's going to be a tough test in the second round. But I think if they get back to if they're able to play DeForest in the quarters, I would like them in that game.
I don't want to keep beat Milton earlier in the year, but after what Milton did with MG last week, you got to Bill O'Leary's got to be smiling, going, he's got everybody right where he wants them.
That's right. Speaking of Monona Grove, the defending champs in Division III, part of a deep area grouping in that division. And Dennis, the makings are there for a Mount Horeb-Barneveld Monona Grove rematch. Now they met in week 1, and Mount Horeb-Barneveld won that one by 2. But they could meet in level 3, and again, those are the kind of matchups that we expect in the postseason, where you keep those 2 teams away for the first 2 rounds and hope that they meet with a chance to play for a berth in the state semifinals. Yeah,
the spoiler could be the Bigfoot, who got their long conference streak snapped in the Rock Valley South, and Jefferson, who runs the football very well. Here's where a diversified offense comes through, and this is where Monona Grove and Mount Horeb have it. Plus, their defenses can really step up at this time of year. You've got both teams, defending state champ, unbeaten last year in MG, and Mount Horeb-Barneveld that's made a number of playoff runs and was in the semis 2 years ago. So that's got to be the game to watch down the road.
My spoiler alert in that one, Jason, Waukesha Catholic Memorial in the state semifinals would possibly await the winner of the area teams in Division III. They were a part of that big 4-team conference share in the Classic 8, so a Division III team playing Division I competition, that's awfully dangerous.
Yeah, it is, and I think if you look at the group that we were just talking about, I think it's a really, whoever comes out of that's going to be really battle tested. You have Bigfoot and Jefferson, 2 great teams that went to overtime in the regular season. Reedsburg is a 6 seed.
That's right.
Extremely good 6
Don't forget about that.
And then, of course, you had the defending champion Monona Grove, and then Mount Horeb, who beat Monona Grove early in the year. I think whoever does end up in the semifinals there will be battle tested, and they're going to be ready for that game.
Well, but Wisconsin Lutheran, that's the team I hear they're as good or better than they were in the past when they've had their run.
Sure.
And they ran roughshod over some teams in their league this year, which is, Little 10, which is pretty good.
You never know who's going to come out of some of these divisions, and as we get to Division 4 and Division 5, I think that rings true in a big way this year. A wide open area bracket in Division 4. Wautoma and Lodi get number 1 seeds, but I'm not sure that means as much, Dennis, because it's just loaded with teams that are capable of getting through. We saw it last year with Platteville after getting beaten up in the SWC last year. They run the tables and get to Camp Randall. That could happen again out of the local area.
Yeah, Broadhead Judah knocking off Bigfoot that last game of the year. I think that bodes well for them going into the playoffs. But there you go, Wautoma and Lodi. Lodi's won losses to Wautoma non-conference earlier in the year, so it'd be nice to see a rematch there.
As I peek at your group there, the 2 spoilers in that lower group, and Little Chute with a 7-2 record coming out of the Fox Valley, and again, based on what we're seeing with some of the way that the Fox Valley was treated, I think they are an area that the WIA sees as football rich, because they're getting some pretty good draws in this postseason. They've got Omro in the first round, but Bloomer at 8-1 coming down from Northwest Wisconsin in that Group C could upset the seeding process there, and 2 could beat 1, 4 could beat 1, 3 could beat 1. So we'll keep an eye on that, because then that would have an impact on that Lodi grouping that where the Blue Devils are ranked number 1. Guys, in Division 5, we never usually have to say much. There's only 5 teams locally, Jason, in that grouping, but Lancaster being one of them. 3 years in a row they've been to the state finals. 3 years in a row they've come home with the silver trophy. You'd like to think this is their year, but then they go, and my spoiler alert is they've got Arcadia in there, and those 2 teams met during the regular season, and Arcadia came out on top. So what do you make out of that Division 5 field?
I agree. It's going to be a lot tougher for Lancaster this year. If they can make it back to the state finals, that would be a huge accomplishment, even though I'm sure they want to win it this year. But Arcadia, they're going to have to play, and then even in round 2, Poinnette is going to be a tough challenge. Just to get past the second round is going to be quite a challenge. So I think if Lancaster can make it back to where they did last year, that'd be they got to be happy with that.
Yeah, Poinnette had their confidence shaken a little bit when they got beat by Lodi pretty good.
Yeah.
But again, that's one of those neighborhood rivalries. It doesn't matter what the records are. So they can throw that one out. I mean, Lancaster's got to go through there, but from day one I said Lancaster's got to go back.
Yeah.
John's
right. We got to get him a goal again.
Yeah, so I want to stick with the Flying Arrows.
And they've all been great games at state too. That's the one thing. I mean, it's hard for a football guy like John Hoke to be too disappointed because that one game was 44-43 in overtime or double overtime and
double classic
game, and the last two have been all within a touchdown. So the Arrows have provided us a lot of postseason excitement here the last couple of years. We'll see if it happens again. Guys, Division 6, one of the great area groupings is the one that has Darlington as the 1 seed. Every team in the 8-team grouping 6-3 or better. 2 private schools in there. Racine Lutheran will make the trip to Martinsfield in Darlington on Saturday to take on the Darlington Redbirds. They're 6-3. The bottom half of the bracket in that grouping is Lake Country Lutheran, a team that lost to Blackhawk in the state semifinals of Division 7 a year ago. Hard to pick a team to beat out of that. I love the way Darlington's playing, but boy, no favors there in a tough division.
Yeah, Pecatonic Argyle lost their starting quarterback, and the coach's son has stepped right up there. So from a Cinderella story, you kind of like that. Six Rivers, it was a pretty tough league this year. They're the one team that's there. Everybody else seems to was made the Division 7 field. Private schools this time of year, especially in the smaller divisions, have a tendency to go far.
Great matchup in week 1 or level 1. Mineral Point and Deerfield. Deerfield won the large trailways, which traditionally isn't a bad conference, and but they've had their troubles. Deerfield's run up against Racine Lutheran in the past. They're going to have a very good Mineral Point team, and then of course if they win that one, they could face Darlington or Racine Lutheran again. So, and then Iowa Grant Cuba City should be a great first round matchup. So if you're looking for a division where you can pull a matchup out of a hat, go to a game. Division 6 is the one that you'd probably want to take a look at. Jason, before we wrap up here, Division 7, Ithaca, a surprise number 1 seed in the local bracket in that division. Surprising only because the Ridge and Valley, not one of the stronger football conferences going back over time, only 1 state finalist since 1990, and typically the Six Rivers Conference has the run of that grouping. But this year, with the Six Rivers being so competitive, I think they beat each other out of a number 1 seed, it would appear. Yeah,
I think you're right. I think when you look at the whole field, it's kind of hard to keep them out of a number 1 seed, even though, like you said, they're you don't typically see that from the Ridge and Valley. But I think it's played well enough to deserve it, and it's not going to be an easy road. I mean, I think Blackhawk could be a really tough game in the second round. But I think they earned the number 1 seed. And
Dennis, the spoiler there, we know it. Burlington Catholic Central, 4 times a state finalist since 2004, and they always seem to be the team that mentally is the biggest hurdle for those teams. Whether it's Six Rivers, Ridge and Valley, they seem to be in the way of a lot of different small schools from the southwest Wisconsin part of the state.
Yeah, it is, but I like Potosi's chances, the way they've been playing down the stretch. Very good to win that Six Rivers Conference title. But again, private schools, you never know.
Well, this is what makes this time of year so exciting, is the fact that the intrigue of not knowing which divisions teams will be in, now we know, and how they'll be matched up, now we know that. Now it's time to play the games. Dennis Semrau and Jason Galloway will join me on Friday for our live chat as we break down the playoff matchups in a little bit more depth and take a look at what's going on Friday night, Saturday afternoon around the state. And of course, set the stage for those big schedule of Friday night games when we'll have our live blog and with score updates and highlights up and running right here on madison.com. For Dennis Semrau and Jason Galloway, I'm Rob Hernandez. Thanks for watching this Level 1 edition of Prep Rally. We'll see you at the stadium.